Hello, lovely. This is Into the Hen House, a podcast for moms with littles. We are joining our voices to a revolution of remembrance. And as mothers, we are rising together and choosing to live, birth, and mother from a place of internally sourced power and deep connection. Join us on this journey as we dive into topics of mindful and intuitive living and mothering, healthy and sovereign living, as well as the often taboo topic of birth trauma, both healing and preventing it. We are your hosts, Andrea,
Caitlin,
and Chantal.
And if you're ready, it's time to jump into the hen house.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're so excited to be here today. We have an amazing guest. Sydney, or the Blonde Coup, if you follow her on Instagram, is here to chat all kinds of things: breastfeeding, separation from mom, the man, society, the government, you name it. So buckle up. You're in for a real treat today.
Hi, Sydney. We're so glad you're here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited. Let's dive right in and talk about breastfeeding because there was sorry, you had one post online where you said, I'm really, really good at making people mad. And I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I am. And it comes from a place of just like, I am just sharing what I have experienced and kind of been the person that I wasn't having when I needed them. So, and it's my way of support in a way. And I think people misinterpret that because they're either naive to what it is actually to support women to breastfeed, or they're ignorant and they don't know exactly what it takes to breastfeed. So I think it's a variation of things. Either one, like they're just taking it personal when it's really not an attack on them. It's more about holding formula companies accountable for unethical behavior. But even then, I upset people, not even when I'm trying. I'm not trying to, but I do piss people off often.
There's
Go
ahead, Caitlin.
The first post of yours that someone must have shared it, and it came across my feed, and I went and watched the whole little series, and then I replied, and you had been talking about like the looks people give when a mom is breastfeeding in public, and I wrote this whole thing about like my experience has been so opposite. And then after I sent it, I was like, wow, you sound like a D-bag. Like you feel it reads like you're dismissing her whole everything she's experiencing. So then I had to send another paragraph that was like, I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. I'm saying I totally get that so many people have this experience, and I've been so grateful that my experience is different. And then I think I sent a third to follow that, and then I was like, stop thinking and stop talking, and just slowly. I felt like the Homer meme backing into the bushes. And so we had a lovely exchange after. I was like,
You know what? I don't take anything personal because my platform has been built on having conversations that are atypical. So I'm used to people being like, you're wrong. And I've had people say my experience was different. And I've had people be like, that was my experience. So no one's wrong. It's just I'm sharing what happened to me, and like kind of what I'm seeing is not a lot. I haven't seen anyone breastfeeding in public. In the 2 years I've been breastfeeding, I've seen one person breastfeeding in public. One woman. Of course a woman, but one woman breastfeeding. Out of all the babies that I've seen, only one. I've seen tons of people bottle feeding and so on, and it's kind of like this weird moment when you try to breastfeed and people are like feel like they have to like remove themselves, like they're so uncomfortable around it, almost like they've seen something that they shouldn't. And it's like, this is just life, this is just part of being a human. And so anyways, that I've had different responses with people. I've had people just kind of like remove themselves, and it feels uncomfortable because you're like, am I making them uncomfortable by breastfeeding, or
right.
Am I doing something wrong? Almost like kind of ashamed, but like, am I doing something wrong? kind of feeling that I have, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's just they haven't seen breastfeeding maybe as much as they probably should. So they're almost sensitive to the idea.
Yeah. And that seems to be, from what I've witnessed in the online space, what your experience is seems to be very common. That women, whether it's because someone has actually made them feel uncomfortable or that perception of, am I doing something wrong? But a lot of people feel like it's very difficult to breastfeed in public. Like it's like they're being shamed. Like they have to cover, like they can't do it here. They should go over there. And
Yeah.
it's absurd. It's absurd.
It's almost like you don't want to offend someone that maybe chose not to breastfeed, because like people will be like, oh, look at her, she's been an ex-abolitionist. And then it's also sometimes like with my toddler, I almost don't want to breastfeed in public because it's like, oh, is she a weirdo? So like those sort of ideas are very prevalent. Like I've seen it. I can't even believe the things that people will say on breastfeeding content where they're breastfeeding their toddler or even just their baby and they're tandem feeding, and people are just completely brazen. Some of the things I've seen. It's actually it's horrifying to see. And people are like, oh no, breastfeeding is normalized, and I support breastfeeding, but within these certain boundaries. Like as long as I don't see it, it's okay.
As long as the child is of the age that I think is appropriate, it's okay. As long as it's
exactly
in a facility that I think it's okay. As long as you have a cover on, it's okay. As long as your baby's not saying booby and grabbing at your shirt, it's okay. There's just so many rules surrounding when people think it's okay.
Exactly. But then they're totally fine if a baby is using a pacifier until they're 5. Like, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Or they have their security blanket. It's like, that's okay. But if it's the mom, it's the mom that enabled it. You're enabling your child to need you almost. Like you're not essential. Like you created that dependency, and it almost is like you're doing something wrong as a mom, even when you give your child your 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think modesty plays into it too. Because I had met a mom and it was, I had met her online a little bit, but we ended up going to the park with both of our daughters. And I feel like there's an echo. But anyways, we went to the park and it was hot. And the whole time she did not feed her daughter. And I just thought, my goodness, that's a really long time
Andrea,
to go without having fed your child.
Yeah, and it's not, you see what's maybe happening. Like with that, she just felt uncomfortable to do it in that place, and she was out and about. Like
I think she just felt uncomfortable, or maybe she did it as soon as they got back to the car or whatever. And then there was me who's like, I think I fed my child 3 times while we were out, and I'm just like, oh, here you go. But why don't you share some of your thoughts about formula? Because I know that was kind of where the rage came out for people. And from my perspective, you were really sharing, like, again, this is a business model, this is an industry, and a multi-billion-dollar one.
Yeah, that has corporate interests. And I totally agree with Andrea. You've shed light on what those corporate interests are. And it does seem like a lot of people take that as a personal attack against their choices. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts on formula.
Okay, so I think it is important to go back to like how this even came about. So when I was pregnant with my daughter about 3 years ago, they had these counselor sessions that were supposed to guide you through pregnancy. And one of the questions they asked me about 5 months pregnant was, how do you intend to feed your baby? And I'm like, silly question, right? I'm like, breastfeed, like the 80% of women that want to breastfeed. And she goes, well, that's a nice idea, but I think it's a good idea that you have a backup plan. And I'm like, because only a certain amount of people, barely any women make it to the 6 weeks. I think she gave me a number. And I was like, why is that happening? And why, like, are women, like, what's wrong with women? Like, what, like, that was my thought process. Like, how do I make sure that I'm able to breastfeed and that I'm not one of the few people that is not able to breastfeed.
Can you guys hear the thunder here?
Yeah, is that thunder? Oh my God.
That was wild.
Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry.
So,
Yeah. So how do you make sure you're a woman who can breastfeed? Because now
how
you're
do
saying this as,
I?
like, there must be something wrong with women.
Yeah, and I told her I was going to breastfeed as long as I could, at least a year, and that was my goal. It was to breastfeed. So, I started looking into why do women stop breastfeeding, and I realized it goes back to birth. And immediately I was like, I do not want to give birth in a hospital. I started looking into the business of being born. And I really started going down this rabbit hole that I still have yet to be able to get out of. I'm in this rabbit hole pretty deep now. But at that time, I'm like, I'm going to be radical. I'm going to have a birth at a birth center. I'm going to have a natural birth. And, everyone thought I was crazy. And I didn't know anything about epidural and the impacts on breastfeeding. I didn't know anything about the chemicals and the hormones that are going through your body when you're about to give birth and how those can impact postpartum depression, which is like a spiral of why a lot of women have complications with breastfeeding. So I'm like, I'm going to do everything in my power to avoid these problems. So that's how I got into like a natural birth. It was no one like planted in my head. I just was like, I want to breastfeed and what can I do to improve my outcome? So that kind of like led me to this page about talking about my experience of being a mom. And then it kind of changed from that to formula. And then I realized about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months in, I don't know if you know about Radical Mom Union.
I've not.
I've not heard of it, no.
Okay. So I became like one of the rad moms, and they talk about predatory formula marketing. And I was not aware of the impacts of formula marketing until they kind of like walked me through it and I saw it. And I'm like, how come no one's talking about this? And it's because it's not popular. No one wants to be not the popular person. Like I'm kind of hated because I'm talking about something that is actually true. And formula, that's the other thing about formula, is they never want to get their hands dirty. So they've like created this mommy war of like, it's formula mom versus breastfeeding mom. But that's not who we're at war with. We're at war with formula corporations that don't care about babies at all. They care about bottom line, and they try to pretend to be our best friends, like we got your back. We'll be that village that you've been looking for, because motherhood is so hard and there's so much pressure. We'll take that pressure off of you by, here you go, formula, we're your buddies. And so so that's kind of how like I got into talking about formula, is that I see the real problem, not the symptom. So a lot of women are breastfeeding. I don't think that's really the problem. That's a symptom of predatory marketing of formula manufacturers that just don't care about the WHO code of ethics. They don't care about the long-term impacts on babies. They don't care about the impacts on women, but yet they get to be the good guys at the end of the day. They get to be like, we're there for you, girlfriend. Like, we got you this formula so you don't have all that pressure and you can get back to work. It's kind of it's a scapegoat. And they don't ever get held accountable because so many people rely so heavily on formula. I don't know if that
Yeah.
Did I answer your question? I hope so.
Does. And it's really eye-opening, right? Because women, I think, largely have been conditioned to think that formula is there to help them, to if your baby's having trouble gaining weight in those first, days and weeks, if your milk hasn't come in, just supplement, just top it up a little.
Yeah.
Oh, your baby is colicky. It's got to be something wrong with your milk. Switch to this formula because, we have this special ingredient list that's designed to help them to be able to digest, etc. When in reality, I don't know if it was something you had shared or if I saw it on a naturopath I follow's page, but even just one feeding of formula disrupts the gut microbiome in such a way that it takes 30 days for the gut microbiome to heal. So you've started just with one top up, one I'm gonna try it one time. I'm gonna just do it till my baby's gaining weight again, or just till my milk comes in, or whatever. It's starting this potential cascade of negative effects that may end up having a mom stay on formula and end
Absolutely.
her breastfeeding journey
Yeah.
sooner than she had intended.
Well, and they use combo feeding to market to breastfeeding moms that are already successfully breastfeeding, like Top It Off. And it's funny, all their commercials have loads and loads of breast milk in the freezer. It's like, why don't you give the breast milk to the baby instead of the formula? But I digress. So they will use combo feeding as a way to get into your cabinet, and exactly, they'll feed into your doubts of there's a thing called PIMS, perceived insufficient supply, milk supply. That's what it is, PIMS. And so even I had that with my daughter, and then I realized I don't need to top it off. She doesn't need more than what I'm
producing for her. It cut off as you were saying, like even you had that perceived insufficient milk supply.
Yeah. Yes. So perceived milk. Sorry, where were we? I was like totally lost train of thought. We were talking about PIMS, and we were talking about combo feeding and how formula marketing. Okay, so they've gotten into the circle of breastfeeding moms of being like, here, combo feed, take the pressure off, give the responsibility over to another caregiver, and so on and so forth. I don't know if I answered the question, but I'm not sure where I'm going with this.
No, you're doing great.
Just question.
I think that's a big one, especially when you talk about perceived insufficient milk supply, because I think that's a really easy way to get into a mom's psyche in a really vulnerable time. Like I don't know if in my journey as a woman there has ever been a more vulnerable time than postpartum, and especially as a new postpartum mom. So I can see how in a time when all you want is to be the best for this new little human you've just brought into the world, that someone just has to drop this idea. Are you sure they're getting enough? How do you know they're getting enough? How do you know they're not still hungry? Are you sure they're getting kind milk and fore milk? So it's really easy to get into their head.
Well, and I think there's a couple factors here, right? So if we're looking, there's kind of societal pressures, and then there's also the corporate pressure. Like this is what has come up a lot, that people have said, oh, but they're so philanthropic. These corporations are just wanting to do good for people. They just want to help people.
To the kids
And I'm going, these companies are on the stock market. They are on the stock market. That means their primary objective is to make money. Their primary responsibility is to their shareholders who own small percentages of their company and are wanting to make money off of it. So I'm going, that's really important to understand about corporate America as a culture.
Yeah. They're up there with big IT too. Like the amount of money that they've I mean, yeah.
You know, and then there's society and depending how confident you are going into it, depending what kind of support you have going into it, it's very easy to get dissuaded. I have been told so many times, oh, just give up. What you're doing is useless. Your baby's allergic to your breast milk. Your nipples are too flat. You'll never succeed. Even when I was pregnant, it was like, don't assume things are going to go well for you with the birth. Don't assume you're going to be able to breastfeed. All of this is going to be a problem. You need to go buy bottles. You need to prepare for all of these things that are not going to work for you. And I just felt like this is so unhelpful. And these are people who claim to love me, who claim to be my friends. And I want to slap them. I did not.
It's unhelpful and also unhealthy, because we're now filling a mom's head with all these ideas of how she's not going to be enough, which isn't going to lead to a successful journey in and of itself, right? If all a mom is thinking about and is stressing about is being able to do it right, we can imagine how much cortisol is going through her body. Well, cortisol is not optimal for milk letdown. Oxytocin is. And so it's unfortunate that I think often people don't even understand what it means to be supportive and how to be supportive.
Yes.
Which kind of takes us back to that very first thing we were talking about with a village and what kind of support do moms need?
Yeah. So Sydney,
Yes.
what does that look like according to you?
Are you able to hear me? It just cut out for a moment.
Yes.
So what it means to me to be really supportive is ultimately it starts with one mother saying, I'm going to support my daughter. I'm going to support the women around me to be able to breastfeed. I'm not going to adopt the propaganda that formula marketing is telling me fed is best. Oh, do whatever you need to do. Take the pressure off, or you need to, spread the responsibility onto others to feed your baby. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to be like, hey, what do you need? How can I help you be able to be successful in breastfeeding? And also, our culture needs to change, which is like, how do you change your culture? You're not going to be able to do that by yourself. It really does take women being able to not go along with what's being basically, I don't know what you want to call this movement, this culture, this thing that we got going on with like, the way they talk about formula. I feel like it's relatively new. My mom, I was talking to her about this, and she's like, I never saw any of this stuff when I had you and your brother. And I'm like, so did this just happen in the last 20 years? Maybe it's social media. And eventually you could tell someone that the sky is black and they start to believe it. I don't know if that's kind of what's happening here. Like, you can't breastfeed your baby, so you need to rely and outsource being able to mother to a corporation, to a device, to a can of formula. And you can't rely on your intuition anymore. And I think we've slowly shut off our inner voices. So I think the way that I could see women changing is truly by being vocal about it and talking about it, and just not, for me, I just I have tunnel vision on like a goal of mine, and I don't listen to like all this mommy war stuff anymore. So I think ultimately it just comes back to how we talk about breastfeeding and having more women being reclaiming the power that she already has, and like basically just telling you like breastfeed, like you can do it. I don't know, I like giving less excuses for not breastfeeding and more of a you can do it. You can do it. It's hard, but maybe holding other people accountable for, I don't know how to, like our husbands, our supporters, like our businesses, how they talk about breastfeeding. I think just in general, I think all around the way that our words, how we talk to our daughters, how do we talk to future mothers about breastfeeding, I think is ultimately going to shift the narrative on breastfeeding. I think that's the best way. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. And you said so many huge things there. Number one, that you're going
it starts with
to ask
you.
with, how can I support you? As opposed to assuming, as opposed to just giving unsolicited advice, how can I support you? The second one, you were talking about how like you don't feel that you can affect change on the whole culture. But also I remember at one point in our conversations in the DMs, you were talking about you might not be able to change the whole culture, but you can use your platform, your tiny corner of the internet, if you will, to be someone that another mom can look and go, she breastfeeds in public. If she can do it, maybe I can do it. And sometimes it really does just take seeing one person doing it to give you that little bit of confidence to go, I can do this too. I can do this too. Yeah. And that's massive. So,
and that's really powerful. That's really powerful.
Yes, incredibly.
For sure.
And
because
that's one of the ways that social media can be a tool for good. I think there's so many ways it can be a tool for bad, but I think that's one of the ways it can be a tool for good.
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I built I call it my village on Instagram because I didn't have moms that were mothering or nurturing the way that I felt like I needed to be. And so I wasn't getting that support or that confidence from other people, but I was on social media. So I totally agree with you. If you don't have a village, you can create and build your own and find people that are like-minded on the internet. Like we live miles apart, yet we've connected on the internet. So it definitely leads to good things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you talked about reclaiming your intuition, reclaiming your inner voice, and beginning to trust your body again. And I think that's possibly one of the biggest gaps when it comes to motherhood, both in birth and in breastfeeding and in parenting, is that somewhere along the way we've forgotten how to trust ourselves and how to trust our bodies. And then when everyone says, oh, you can't do it, you won't succeed, you're this, you're that, and sharing a million opinions when you're really quite fragile and vulnerable in those early days, it's you have to have something to fall back on and be like, no, no, you may be upsetting me, but I'm going to tune you out because that's just not, no, I'm not going there. And my other thought was too that you had mentioned how when your mom was having babies, and I think of that even when my mom was having babies, I don't know if there were as many interventions that happened in the hospital. I don't know if C-sections were as common, but I'm going to say I don't think that they were.
My mom had they were really rampant with episiotomy.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that the right word? Episiotomy with the snipping, and my mom hemorrhaged because of it. So that was another thing that she warned me about and led me down to like, I just want naturally hair, like my body will, and that was the best thing that happened. But anyways, like you said, it was a totally different world 20 years ago. Like we didn't have social media, we didn't have formula, wasn't in your face, just doom scrolling like 20 different times telling you here's this formula subscription, take the load off, so I think definitely that has contributed to even more of a decline of breastfeeding. But
Well, I feel like from the place of when a woman is in the birth planning phase, if her providers are even asking her what her birth plan is, which that in and of itself is maybe not as common as we would like it to be, is someone saying, hey, if your goal is to breastfeed, are you aware that getting epidural while you are laboring can have negative impacts on your ability to have letdown and infection and to start that breastfeeding journey? Are you aware that if you have X intervention, it could lead to Y intervention, which could lead to your journey not looking like what you think? And we know the answer is no, those conversations are not happening. And this comes back to, as you were saying, Andrea, like we have come so far with outsourcing all of our decision making. And in outsourcing all the decision making, we've stopped listening to our intuition. We've completely disconnected from it to where people even question, well, I feel like this doesn't feel right, but then they don't listen to it. So they're getting the little hits, they're getting the little intuitive moments, but they're ignoring them. And continuing to, well, let me look at another book. Let me do another Google. Let me ask another fill in the blank.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say on the more positive side of that, the internet doesn't want what we have to say to be heard.
Oh no, it's happening again. Okay, maybe it's from over here.
What I was gonna say was, I think on the positive side, you good? Oh,
I think so. I hope so.
I think on the positive side of that, the more we do listen to our intuition, like even if it's just that, the first time you get that little hit of something doesn't feel right, and so you listen to it, and then Andrea and I had a mentor who would say, like, then you store that in your brain in the drawer of, I listened to my intuition. Each time you store those moments of, I listened to my intuition and it worked out, like, and things went the way I wanted, it becomes a lot easier to have moments of intuition and to recognize them for that and to then listen to them. So I think it's neat. And I think that we can reclaim that. And I think it can be done with more ease than we realize even.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it helps also to understand the forces at play that are seeking disconnection in general, like the business of disconnection.
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because it goes so far beyond just breastfeeding, but it's also, you need the pacifiers, you need the
bassinet and the fancy, it reads your
the
heart
thingy
rate
that rocks your baby, and if they start shifting, it jiggles them to put them back to sleep. You need the I don't know,
the lounger and the bouncer and the
It doesn't stop. And it's funny because I believe that it starts at the moment of conception, because the very first person I called was the doctor's office. Why? Why was I was so keen on getting right, like what do I do now? Like, I had no idea how to proceed. Like, I'm pregnant, so now what? Like, I don't know what I do from here. And so I relied heavily on them to tell me what my next steps were, until I was like 5 months pregnant, and then I started to feel like that intuition talking to me, and then I would start talking to them, and I was like, I don't like them. Like, I don't like the way that they're talking to me about, like, I want to breastfeed, and they're telling me I'm not going to be able to do that, and they're telling me I'm going to want an epidural, so prepare for this, prepare for that, and like planting those seeds of doubt that we talked about earlier. And so definitely, I think that it starts long before birth, is that intuition, like relying on them to tell you where to be and how to mother. I think it starts, it's totally a how your mental outlook on motherhood and how to do things. I think part of it too is just being kind of naive, not really knowing how to mom and wanting to do the best that you can, and not knowing how to like listen to your intuition, because we're not told that. Not even as little girls, we're not told that. We're like told fear childbirth, fear motherhood, fear of the unknowns.
And also,
really,
don't trust your body. This is what you're sharing. That's not how you feel.
Okay, don't.
That's not how you feel.
Yeah,
change your feelings. That doesn't count. And all of it kind of goes
separation.
into, or even like, that's not logical. Trust your mind. Don't trust your body. Don't trust.
Even like little kids, they fall and they get hurt. And for us as an adult, it doesn't really make logical sense that you'd be hurt. And so an adult will say to a child, "Oh, you're just faking it." What? Like, we're starting from such a young, we're just discounting someone's experience instead of just saying, "Oh, hey, that must have hurt," or "Oh, hey, that must have been scary," or "Oh, hey," like, "Oh, hey, what do you need from me? Do you need a hug?"
Yeah.
Like, "Are you okay? Where does it hurt? You must be faking."
Or even like co-sleeping, it's like, no, you're too attached. As soon as your baby comes out, you're too attached. You feel like you're something wrong with you. You're having postpartum depression. You're a little Looney Tune because you're a little concerned about your baby being separated from you. Like, you're the problem. It starts in so many. So it's
so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like there's so many, and I think people are very well meaning. They're trying to be helpful. But again, even the push for independence, you need your baby to be independent. And I noticed that starting at, she was less than a week old. She was maybe like 3 or 4 days old. And it was kind of like, don't hold your baby so much. In a couple months, she's going to be licking the floor. You're being so overprotective. And I'm going, yes, in a couple of months, when she's 6-ish going forward, her immune system will be ready to lick the floor.
Yeah.
But she's 3 days old. And then by the time she was 8 months, the conversation was, you're being too protective because she's going to be going for sleepovers soon and going to school. And she's going to be traveling by herself. And I'm going, she's 8 months.
Yeah.
Like,
Wild.
again, I get that you're
Wild.
telling me these things will happen. I understand that. But does that mean that I should neglect her now? That I should ignore her now? That I shouldn't breastfeed her now? Like, it's how I treat her at 8 months is hopefully going to be very different than how I treat her at 5 years,
I know. Like, just so dismissive. It's dismissive to like your intuition of like what you feel like your baby needs right now. Like, oh, you don't need to do that. And you're like, wait, I feel like I do, and I'm the boss.
Yeah. And it's interesting though how
If that,
whenever this culture of disconnection and this business of disconnection started, it's become so pervasive. And I look at it and say, okay, this wasn't something that started just in our generation. Maybe it's gotten worse, but I'm going, it was what our parents were told too, and how they were treated too. And it just keeps passing down. And I'm going, wow, this is really like, when did we forget how to connect?
I mean, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole today, but I will say, and then I'll leave it there. From the time when the men went away to the war and the women had to step into the workplace, and the government realized that they could tax a 2-income family, I think things shifted to better get those women back to work as quick as possible so that we can get our tax dollars again. So how can we get those women back to work as quick as possible? Well, here's a pacifier instead of a breast, and here's sleep in this separate bed because you don't need her. And here are cascade of devices to encourage and support disconnection, because we got to get those moms back to work. And I think that we can see that it is detrimental to children. It is detrimental to the next generation, and it will be detrimental to society as a whole if changes aren't made.
Yeah. Now I'm so curious. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I saw a commercial for like pharma talking about a child having toxic anxiety, and I'm like, where is that coming from? Like, kids shouldn't have toxic anxiety. Like, I'm sure you could look it up, but I'm like, basically there's like a pharma or some sort of thing that parents should be aware of is toxic anxiety. And while it may be true, I'm like, what's causing that? Is it
It certainly could be the lack of attachment to mom, because society is encouraging disconnection from such an early age, right? That certainly couldn't cause
couldn't possibly be that. Couldn't possibly be that. No.
And certainly reconnection couldn't help it. You definitely need whatever drug that this app is for.
I don't know if it's for a psychiatrist or a drug, or I'm like, I don't want to give that to my child. I don't want to put my child through that. Like, anyways.
In your opinion, if we want to see mothers begin to rise up and reconnect to their power, to their intuition, like, what does that look like for you?
I really believe I have multiple, and like, what did I say earlier? For women to be able to connect to their power, I think it really comes down to the way that we talk to our daughters, like I said earlier, and ultimately it's up to us to be able to take that power. And I think
okay, this feels steadier.
It does.
Even the sound quality feels steadier.
Okay, I'm going to re-ask the last question.
Oh my God. I'm like, how do I answer this question?
Just let it flow. I'll re-ask it, and then just whatever comes through you. So if we want to see mothers reconnect to their power, to rise up, to reclaim that intuition, what does that look like for you?
We stop allowing corporations to discredit and undermine women from their intuition. And we prioritize mother over machine and plastic and anything other than mother. Mother is all a baby needs. And I think that we stop separating or telling women that her instinct is oppressive to her, or her biology is oppressive to her, and that ultimately she has all of what she needs to be able to mother her baby. She's not incapable or insufficient, and that she can mother her baby, and that she is capable, and she doesn't need that validation from a can or a bottle or a company to tell her how to mother.
You gave me goosebumps. That was
Oh, I
Yeah, me too. That
so
was
good.
beautiful.
I feel like it was that momentum. I don't know where that came from, but
Yeah. You got out of your head and you were
I had to get out of my
cruising.
head. There we go.
Yay.
Okay.
I absolutely love that.
That was so fun.
That was a good answer for something I couldn't answer originally.
We just needed to reconnect you onto a different connection, literally. And here we go. I have to go in just a minute or two here. Is there anything else anyone wants to add?
I don't have a question. I don't think so. Do you guys have any more questions?
No, I don't think so. I love that. And I just think one of the biggest myths that we are told is that as a woman and as a mother, our most important work is all of the work we do on something else. And that to take care of your child is not worth your time, or it's not a good use of your skills, or it should be the least paid and undervalued work. And I'm going, it's just what you were saying is mothers have to come first, and they have to recognize that they're important, and recognize that this that they're doing it's the one place they're irreplaceable. It's the one place where they are absolutely needed. And it doesn't mean that they can't work and do other things. They can. And and the mother, the being human, is so much more important than all of the other things and nonsense. And how you said it was just so beautiful.
I'm glad you liked it. It was like, I'm glad I was able to come out that way, because I could say that in my shower. Like, I'll think about things that I want to say, and then I'm like, that's why I was like, I'm so much better when I'm not on a piece of paper, and like I actually talk from like my heart. But I'm glad you liked it, and I felt like this conversation was so needed.
Yes. It was really wonderful having you today. I think so many moms are going to really love this episode. I think it's a really important topic, and it many times I was like, ooh, shivers. Yep, that hits. So I'm really excited for our audience to get to hear this one.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much, Sydney. Thank you for joining us. And I'll make sure that I put whatever information you want to share, and I'll get it in the show notes. But I'll grab that from you later. And thank you. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to re-listen to this one too. I'm like, oh, can I start right away?
I'm excited. I really am. Thank you. I'm so glad that we were able to get together and have this conversation. It was delightful, and really sometimes like talking about things that are kind of I'm passionate about is good to just get it out there and not hold it and bottle it in. Because I think a lot of women feel this way.
I really think so too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it takes a lot. It takes courage to show up for it. So.
Well, yeah. I'm going to leave the hen house today.
Well, I will stop the recording, but thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you all soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you are loving this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe and leave us a review. Both of these really help the show. As you go out into the world this week, know that we are sending you so much love and wishing you a wonderful and beautiful day. And we will see you back here soon.